We are recording. All righty. Welcome to the Lookout Podcast, a special episode with my great friend and also my rookie cousin who lived in Texas for a little bit of time. And then you became a hotshot, Smokejumper, moved out east, became a structure firefighter, got into the family business with oyster farming. The future holds possibly a tasting room with your vineyard and the oyster farm combination. We'll get into that here in a minute, and I'll have you clarify some of this stuff. Also, Tom, my guest Tom Haney. Tom's a world-class photographer. I have one of Tom's incredible photos on my wall in the house. It's amazing. And you have been featured in the Smithsonian, I believe, 2 times, maybe more. Is that correct?
I think 2, yeah.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. So my incredible guest today is Tom Haney. Thanks for joining me, brother.
Yeah, thanks. Which photo do you have? I didn't know you had
It was when we were in West smoke jumping together. So I guess to finish the intro, we rookied because you rookied in 13 out of Grangeville, right?
Yeah.
And I rookied in 13 out of NCSB. So we're rookie cousins. And then 14, we linked up in West. And I think you were actually showing my wife, Autumn, one of your photos. And she was like, man, that's awesome. Like, that was a great photo. And then, like, her birthday was right around the corner. And I was like, hey, man, like, could I buy that photo from you? And then you being the nice guy you are, you wouldn't even let me buy it. I think I bought it for a 6-pack of cold smoke. And pretty sure it's one of your photos that was featured in the Smithsonian. And I'm like, dude, let me give you some money for this thing.
Oh, man, cold smoke. That's so familiar. What is that, a Missoula beer? I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the Kettle House. Remember, it came in like a kind of a reddish can with a skier on it, and back in the day, I don't know what it looks like now. And they're kind of tall boys, darker beer.
Yeah.
Scotch ale, I believe. And do you remember what photo it was?
No.
So it was the one of Lake McDonald. I think you camped out and ended up in like a snowstorm or something at Glacier.
Yes, I do remember that. That was man, that was a special photo. I have to admit. Because I spent 3 or 4 nights on the like the eastern side of the park, totally unprepared, midwinter, horrible weather, like 70-mile-an-hour winds. And I hiked in, and I remember I could barely see because the wind was blowing snow in my eyes, and I had no glasses. I mean, just totally unprepared. But I was on the road, which is closed, but I was just hiking on it. And so after like 3 days, I didn't have any photos that was the thing that was difficult near the end, was it took so long to get a photo that you really felt good about, like that could make it on the website or something that was, up to your standard. So I was going to leave to go home, and I went to the other side of the park, and just one of the, random little thing. I stopped at Lake McDonald, and these 2 women went paddleboarding out, and I was taking photos of the lake without them. And they went out, and I thought, well, because I'm not used to photographing with people. That wasn't really the thing that I did, and I thought, well, photos ruined, I mean, it's totally nice to them and stuff. But so I started packing up to leave. And then I remember thinking that the mountains in the background, I stopped. I was leaving and I stopped, and I kind of saw like the scale, and I thought, wait a second, this could be cool. And I went back. They were way, way out there, but I set up, and on their way back, I was waiting, and I was able to get like where they were coming in, but their silhouettes were still within the frame of the mountain. Like they hadn't come close enough where they stuck out above the mountains. And then I did a panorama. So I took a photo here of them, and then I took a photo to the side, and I stitched them together. So it was a panoramic.
Oh,
but yeah, that won it was called the People in Nature category of the, oh man, I don't remember the name of the contest, but the winners of the categories were in the Smithsonian for a year. It was really cool. And Aaron and I went up.
So cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Man, and like you said, the colors they were able to capture, and that it was a sunrise, right? You said
sunrise. Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think you told me that. I'm trying to remember, just from the photo, like it hangs in my living room. It's like one of the big pieces that we have, and like we get a lot of people asking about it.
Their paddles were mirrored, when I looked. That's the thing with digital, I was filmed forever, so you'd have to wait 2 weeks to see what the photos were like. But with digital, it's like I took it and I scrolled back, and I was like, oh my gosh, their paddles were mirrored. Yeah, I was pretty excited about that one.
It was so cool too, and I think they were in like UGG boots or something because it was still like really cold.
Oh, and it's winter in Glacier. Yeah, I was so ready to get home.
Yeah, I bet. Tough gals though, right?
Yeah, they were sporty. I think I actually somehow I communicated with one of them. I might have gotten, I think when they got into land, I told them, hey, I think I just got a really cool photo of you guys. And I got someone's email. And then later I told one of them, hey, you're in the Smithsonian in this photograph. I just remembered that. And
Dude,
that was really cool. Yeah.
that's so cool, man. And then was that your first photo in the Smithsonian, or had you had the other one before?
That was, that was the second one. So the first one was the bubbles. Did you ever see that one?
Yes,
Yeah,
dude,
that
that
was
was one of my favorites.
I know that was another totally random. Like I was out on the Oregon coast at this thing called Thor's Well, which is this giant sinkhole on the ocean, on the Pacific, and then the water would the big waves would come in and they would sink into this giant sinkhole and then they would gush out of it. And so I was out on the rocks there in the winter and there was this like kind of rogue wave. And I mean, it hit me like chest high. And I'm with my camera gear. I got my camera on the tripod. So I lifted the camera up and this wave hit me and it skidded me on my feet, like 30 feet. I'm just trying not to fall in the water. So after it receded and I was okay, I was like, okay, I gotta head back to shore. And I started heading back to shore. And that's when I saw these bubbles, rafts of bubbles in the tide pools. And so I opened the tripod. You can see the tripod legs. And yeah, it's one of those things totally random. You never know when you're going to get a good one.
So cool. And speaking of color, from like even the last one, like the pinks and the different hues of the Glacier Lake McDonald photo with those two gals, like it's so eye-catching, like just the colors you capture from that. And then the bubbles one is like even more, right? Like it's like all the bubbles are a little different, color, and they're very vibrant. It looks fake almost.
I know. I read after that because I'm in the Pacific Ocean, like in the most beautiful remote area, and the bubbles had these colors to them. So I was wondering, is there like a soap in the water or something? But it's called shoot, I can't remember what it's called. But it's something about the ocean water when it's foaming like that. There are colors to the bubbles. I can't remember why, but it was a natural thing. I was wondering myself.
Yeah, so cool. And I think if you look really close, right, there's just little tiny pictures like of you in every bubble, right?
Every bubble. I know. It was so cool. Yeah,
so
I love
cool.
that. But that one was a surprise. Like when I looked at the photos later, I didn't know when I took it how neat it was. And some photos look really neat when they're small, and then some only look really neat, really blown up. And that was one of the ones where it wasn't until I zoomed in, I was like, wow,
Dude.
I had my hood on. It was raining,
Yeah, it's an epic, man. It looks good because even like you said, even your attire looks really cool, man. Like it's almost like out from a different time, like just your attire and the bubbles and everything. It looks very cool. It's almost like otherworldly in a really good way,
Yeah, I actually had a third one in the Smithsonian. I just remembered, but it was not like a category winner. It was like a honorable mention or whatever. But we went up there for that one too. It was a starfish on the Oregon coast in a tide pool, and the tide pool dropped, and this thing, I swear, man, that they have looks like 5 arms. They got their head, and then it looked like it was reclining next to this tide pool, and it was reflected.
Whoa.
And it was great. It was a really cool one, but that was in animal category or something. But it was just an honorable mention or something. It wasn't. But they still, even those they put up there in the exhibit.
That is so cool. I would love to see the exhibit. I would love to I've never seen that photo. I've seen the other two and a few of the other ones, and some of the wildlife photos you got when we were jumping out of West.
Yeah. That was really neat. That whenever we had time off of work there, I'd just go into the park. It was a 20-minute drive, unless it was June through August. Then I wouldn't go because there was point,
Dude,
traffic jam the whole way.
Yeah, the old bear jams or buffalo jam or whatever, right? Yeah.
No, I've tried to explain to a couple people since that you could tell what animal was there by how long the traffic jam was.
Yeah.
A bear jam was bigger than a buffalo jam, and
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know, we're all in the bunkhouse together, right? Like me, you, and Newell, and TK. I'm trying to think, was there anyone else, or was that us? I think it might have been it, right?
It might have been. Was Thorpe there? I can't remember.
I don't think so. Yeah, I'm trying to think who else might have been there. No, I think Thorpe wasn't there yet.
Yeah, well, it might have been just us. Yeah.
I think it might have been us. It was really cool because we're all like rookie cousins hanging out together. And there's one time, I don't know where everybody was, because like most of them we were hanging out with each other, like, and I walked off that little balcony, past all our rooms, because all our rooms are on that second floor, and I walked out to the balcony. I can't remember what I was doing. Like, I think I was just like drinking some coffee and taking it in the morning. And like, I just like see something on the corner of my eye and look over. This is Buffalo. And he's like right there at the bottom of the stairs looking at me. And I just like, oh, weird. And I snap a quick photo with my phone. And it turned out really well for how, back in the day, I was in 2014, the phones kind of sucked. But
Yeah.
like I snapped it and kind of similar to like your story. I mean, not as cool of photos, but
Yeah.
like didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh man, I'll show Autumn when she gets here. And then she's like, is this sticking its tongue out at you? And I was like, what? And I zoom in, and sure enough, it looks like it's sticking its tongue out at me. Like, and it looks like it's looking right at me. Like its tongue's out and stuff because it's just grazing and just like licking its chops. I was like, oh, so cool, man.
That's awesome. I don't remember seeing a buffalo that close to the bunkhouse. That's cool.
Maybe it was before everyone kind of got there. Like me and Newell were there like super early.
Oh, maybe you guys got there early. I remember I wasn't there for, what was it, meat week, when all you did was eat meat. And I remember Clark told me after meat week, he's like, all I want to do is drink water and eat salad.
Oh yeah. Clark was in there with us too. Yeah, I knew there was another person. Clark was in there. Zonner had his own camper, I think. But yeah, I remember talking to Clark because I just missed meat week, and I was like, glad I missed that one, man.
Yeah, just beer and meat for a week.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds amazing, but
first day's probably pretty good, but not day 7. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think my gut could handle like 7 days of it,
Yeah.
But like before we jump ahead, because I'll keep talking about West stories. You kind of grew up mostly in Texas, right? Until you got in the hotshot life, or how'd that start?
Yeah. I was born in Louisiana, New Orleans. I was like the 6th generation born in New Orleans, which is funny because I have really no connection to it, but like it's kind of like my ancestral home, like the first Haney that got off the boat from Ireland. It was 1850 New Orleans, named Thomas too. But so I was born there, grew up in Prairieville near Baton Rouge, and we moved when I was 7 because my parents just, to their credit, I mean, I'm really impressed by this. They were in their late 30s, had no money, and just looked around and thought, we don't want to raise kids here where they were. So they started driving west, and I think their goal was to get to Denver. And then they stopped in Austin on the way, and it was just so beautiful. And the dry air, if you're from Louisiana, like dry air is magical,
Oh, yeah.
So they stayed in Austin, and my dad made it work. And so I grew up there, but just from 7 to 18. But it feels like where I grew up, and then after high school, I moved. I went to college in Arizona. That's where I met Aaron. And
ASU?
really back in Austin, yeah.
Did you go to ASU, or did you go to Flagstaff? Where'd you go?
No, I went to Prescott College. It's not a
Yeah.
It's not a place anyone's ever heard of, but it's a little liberal arts college, kind of for hippies or people that don't want to go to college and just want to be outdoors, but they feel like they need to go to college. That's kind of the vibe. So it was a lot of neat people.
Yeah. I was gonna say, probably met some really cool folks.
Yeah. Sorry, there's a bunch of geese flying over.
Oh, cool. I'm just over here sweating. So, I mean, if you see some tears, I mean, a little bit of happiness because I haven't seen you in a while, but also sweat.
Okay. I did go back to Austin for a few months at a certain point. Like I feel like I expect my kids to come back in their early 20s after like a breakup or something, and they don't know what to do. So I was back home for a few months in like 07, 06, 07. Yeah.
It's always a good place to have a place to land and kind of create that environment. That's what I want to do too. It's like, when the kiddos like said, need a place to land, whether it's just a break from wherever they might be, like in college wise or something, and my story is kind of similar too. I was born in Northern Illinois, moved out to Montana in junior high, but those years, like you said, from like 7 to high school, like those are like your very formidable years where you're really like becoming who you are, So I think they really shaped me. I mean, I got a chance to be in Boy Scouts in Illinois and got to make some really cool outdoors memories, but like becoming who I was, I think is mostly in those Whitehall years, in Montana.
Yeah.
So how'd you end up in fire, man? Like,
I was thinking about this today. My first exposure to it was I was 16 and I was doing a study abroad thing in Mexico.
Oh,
I was staying with this local family. My parents drove down 8 hours into Mexico and dropped me off with a family. And I'm looking back like, wow, that was really brave of them, because they didn't know these people. And it was, I mean, I guess there was some program, but it was just a family that lived in San Miguel de Allende. And they had other people there. And there were some girls, I remember, from North Carolina. And there was my roommate, Jason, and he was a wildland firefighter. He was like 23. He was like the big old guy. I was 16. He was like like a cool old guy, and he was, I think, on a Hotshot crew somewhere. And that was the first time I heard about it. And I remember thinking it sounded really neat, but then I forgot about it for 20 years. Well, shoot, 16, I guess 10 years. And then I was 2007, I was on the Pacific Crest Trail. I was doing my third, 1,000+ mile hike. Honestly, at that point, I didn't know what I was doing with myself. I was 22 or 23 maybe. And I just didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And I'd had a breakup, and actually from Erin, my wife now. So that all worked out. That's another story. Yeah. But not in a great place. So I just thought, well, I'll just go on the Pacific Crest Trail again, because it's a beautiful experience, And I in 2004, I hiked from Lake Tahoe to Canada. And then next year, I hiked from Mexico to Lake Tahoe. So I'd done the whole trail in sort of 2 sections. And so I started hiking it again, not really, just trying to figure myself out. Like, what am I going to do? I had no idea. So I was coming into Lake Chelan. What's that?
I was gonna say, like, that just seems like a really good place to be. Like, instead of like spinning your wheels in like a small town, which I think we're all susceptible to that. Like going out and just like, I'm gonna go out and let my mind wander a little bit and find something instead of like staying put, I guess. What I'm trying to say. Would you recommend it? I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was an amazing experience. I do feel like, I guess I always looked back and thought at that point I was kind of escaping. I did feel at the time, eventually when I look back, I was escaping at that point. But you all you can do is think. All you're doing is thinking. So I was thinking and thinking, and then I'm coming into Lake Chelan at the end of one of these like 100-mile sections, and my trail converges with another one. It kind of forked together, and there's this guy, JT Sawyer, he had the yellow and the green pickle pants and the lumbar pack. And I just looked at him and thought, that's not a through hiker. Like, his pack looked pretty weird. And so we had like 2 hours to hike to get to the town, and we talked, and he was Smokejumper, and he told me all about it. And I was like, I can't believe that's a job, and it just sounded incredible and like made for me, And by the end of the hike, I had resolved to become a smoke jumper, and he had resolved to take a year off and hike the PCT.
Man, that's awesome.
I know. So I did my part. I doubt he did his, because I think he probably had kids or shortly after. So it's taking a year off stuff, But yeah, I mean, just just the randomness of life is crazy. Like if he had been 10 minutes behind me, I never would have met him. I don't know what would have happened,
Yeah. No, and I love that, right? The adventure, the randomness of it. Like, as you get older and looking back and starting to connect some dots a little bit on like how you ended up where you are, it's so cool, man. Like, there's no way I could predict. Yeah, it's so random. There's no way. Like, I think about it as a kid, especially like in those high school, junior high days, where you're like, ever since you're little and in public school, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And so that question is constantly hammering you since you're very young. Like, oh, even before then, right? Because you get like, oh, you're gonna be a doctor, like got a little doctor suit on when you're very, very little. And then so that's always like the question throughout all your youth. And then, like you look back and you're like, I couldn't have predicted any of this, man. I had no idea I was gonna be a smoke jumper either, man. It's crazy, huh?
I know. Like right now, Samuel, my 8-year-old boy, says he wants to be an oyster farmer. I'm like, buddy, you're not gonna be a farmer. Like there's a million things to be. I mean, it's possible, but whatever you think you're going to do, you're probably not going to do. And, so random. Yeah.
So random, man. So like, was there any other jumpers with JT, or was it just him?
No, it was just him. And having been a jumper, I look back and I'm like, why was he by himself, like hiking for 2 hours? I mean, there's no one-manners, you don't ever jump a fire as one guy. So I still look back. I remember later at one point thinking, like, why was he by himself hiking? I mean, we hiked like, 6-7 miles from a fire, clearly, because he had all his stuff on. He had the Pulaski into Lake Chelan. Yeah, it would be fun. I'd like to ask him about that one day. Like, what happened there? Why were you by yourself?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
but you know how it goes sometimes too. Like I see the fire up on the Panhandle, and so I was the last one off. So you almost wonder if me that happened. Like everyone else had already hiked off, and he's just
Maybe.
the
Yeah,
last guy leaving.
could be. Yeah, it could be.
Man.
Uh,
And so you got the bug at Lake Chelan, which is a great place to get the bug. It's such a beautiful spot. And did he at least give you the playbook, or did you kind of figure it out from there, like how to get your foot in the door?
he just told me Hotshot cruise. He said you got to go through Hotshot cruise. So yeah, that was funny because he was from one of these well-known Hotshot cruises. I think it was Sawtooth, maybe.
Oh,
I believe. But anyway, he said, yeah, call the soup. And he gave me his name at the time. And he said, yeah, he'll hire you, tell him you met me and I vouched for you or whatever. So I'm thinking, oh, I got an in. So the next spring, I guess this was late summer. So the next spring I called the Hotshot soup and I said, hey, I'm Tom Haney. I met JT Sawyer on the PCT. He's like, nothing, doesn't say anything. And I'm like, well, anyway, I want to join the crew or I want to be on the crew. And he said, well, you have any experience? And I said, well, no, not right now. He said, no, I don't hire people that experience. And I was like, oh, are you sure? Because at the time I'd done, 1,000-mile hikes and I crewed on a gill netter in the Bering Sea. And I thought I'd done some pretty cool stuff, but I told him a couple things and he's like, yeah, no, I don't hire people that experience. So I was like, oh man. So I really felt at that moment, like kind of, derailed, I think. But then what I did is, cause I really wanted to get on a shot crew my first year, just cause it sounded so much more fun being on a national crew than on a local crew, And I wanted to jumper as fast as possible. So I made a list of superintendents' names and numbers on a piece of paper, and I just started cold calling them and saying, hey, do you hire people that have experience? No, click. And I went through 15 of them, 20 of them. I don't know how many. And then I call one, and I didn't even know who I was talking to at this point. Like maybe I looked at their name, but I didn't know where they were. And the guy picked up and I said, hey, do you hire people that have experience? And he said, absolutely. And so I'm walking around Santa Fe because I was living on this remote farm in Velarde, or like between Santa Fe and Taos, like way out in the mountains, and working at a fancy door factory.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, that's a whole. Yeah, it was an interesting time. I had a horse. It was pretty cool, but I was still trying to find my direction. So I didn't feel great at the time. I was trying to find where I was going. So I started scrambling when he said absolutely. And I'm looking at this paper trying to see who am I talking to, and I see it's Paul Del Marico with Carson Hotshots in Taos. So he's like, I mean, he could have been in, California, whatever. Like, it didn't matter to me. So I was like, oh, well, this is some of the stuff I've done. Can I come interview? And he said, yeah, come up, whatever, tomorrow or the day after. So I drive up to Taos and, knowing after I got on Carson, I was on there for 2 years. Knowing Paul later, all he cared about was that I was bigger than him.
Oh, really?
Paul Del Marico is a very visual man. All he cared about was that you were like, taller than him and looked like you could do the job. And that was pretty much his standard, So, and I did tell him some of the stuff I'd done. It wasn't like I'd never done a hard job. But so, yeah, I got hired. And then I was, so excited. I quit my door factory job. I sold my horse back to the people I bought him from. So that worked out.
Got a good home.
Yeah. And then
Well,
I only had. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, to your point about the work history, though, especially looking back now, you'd probably agree with Paul. Is like you've done hard things, like being a gill netter and being out for a long period of time. I mean, that's one of the bigger things in fire is being able to be out and self-sufficient and not be a problem on a long fire in the middle of nowhere, and be able to still work.
I mean, for sure. Like, I got to be honest, and I'm biased, obviously, but like, I think the superintendent who said I don't hire people that experience, period. I don't think he had the right philosophy, because you could have someone who's been a year or two on a type 2 crew, but they can't, they're not going to be a problem when it gets tough, but you could have someone who's done really hard work. I would think I would look at someone like that at the time and say, yeah, I think he'll be great on the crew, So I think Paul had a good philosophy, but I also think if I had been shorter than him, I don't know if it would have worked out. Knowing him later.
How tall was he?
he was like 5'8" or 9. I don't know. But he was just the guy who he used to chronically pull up the right arm of his sleeve to
Oh,
show his bicep off, like
kind of
almost
give you,
unconsciously, like a tick. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. He
just
should have
like
just worn sleeveless shirts. Yeah. Like
take a
like when
drink
you're
of his
drinking.
coffee and just flexing it.
Exactly. Yeah. No, he was hilarious. But yeah, so I got on Carson and dude, I was at the time I was so young. Like I did such dumb stuff. So I had to be there on a certain day, call it April 20th. I can't remember. And I got invited on a 3-week rafting trip through the Grand Canyon right before that. And so
Dude,
I knew a girl from college, and she knew one of the people. You know, back then it was a wait list. It was 15-year wait list. So this guy put in for the wait list when he was like 30, and when he's 45 or whatever, he gets the call. You can go, you know. And they had a slot, and so they brought her on, and then someone else dropped off, and so she asked me to go. So I didn't know anybody, you know, but I couldn't pass it up. So so I do this rafting trip to the Grand Canyon, 3 weeks, unbelievable, you know. But we pulled out the rafts the day before I was supposed to show up, and I look back now, and I'm like, no, don't do that, you know. Like, what if something happened? You're delayed a day. So we pulled the rafts out. I drive straight to Taos. I get there at night. I sleep out on the parking lot because I don't know how to get into the doors locked, you know, in the bunk room. And so I sleep on the floor, and then yeah, in the morning I started on Carson Hotshots, you know.
man. But you know, back then, you know, like we were all flying from the seat of our pants in our 20s, especially, you know, and it didn't matter. Like you could figure it out, and you could handle the physicality of it too, right? Back then, like you could sleep on a you know rock pile and
On
still show up to
slab.
work, you know.
Yeah, on a stone slab. Man, I went camping with my kids not long ago, and I had 2 of those Z rests, you know, those little foldable. I used to be able to use one of those. All my hikes, I used one of those things. I used 2, and it hurt so bad. I was like, man, I need like a 4-inch, you know, inflatable now. It's pathetic.
Oh, same, dude. Yeah, I was the same way. You know, I had to sleep on the dirt. I just kind of find some of that soft, toughed up looking like
Yeah,
vegetation, you know, like and just kind of like wedge myself sometimes between 2 stumps and it's like, yeah, whatever. You know, like wake up with my back half on one. And like it's fine. I got up a little stiff, but I just go. Now I'd be broken. Someone would have to like peel me off of that. You know?
yeah. You just act like a bear. I think they just walk around and kind of test the ground, find the soft ground, some nice
Oh,
duff.
yeah.
Anymore.
When you're fighting fire like that too, you're just so tired, just like a limp, you know, like noodle, just like
Yeah, I do miss that. I miss going to bed. Just, I mean, I work pretty hard on the oyster farm and stuff, but it's not quite the same as, you know, hiking all day. And the level of tiredness is, you know, it's hard to get there. It's hard to get there in normal life.
Oh, it is, man. Like you said, 16 plus hours of, you know, getting after it, whether it's totally physical or just like a good chunk of physicality. And then also like, you know, the excitement, like the, you know, IA and then things calm down and something else torches or you lose a little bit and then you got to chase it and like all those things that happen during, you know, the initial 24 hours of a fire. And it's like, yeah, it's hard to recreate that unless, you know, I
Yeah.
don't know what, get your wife to scare you occasionally when you're in the field or something, you know, like,
Yeah. Especially if you add in a little leg pocket whiskey.
yeah, exactly, man. Which also helps things out a little bit, you know,
Oh, yeah.
helps sleep a little harder. So, how long did you have to be on Carson? Well, no, actually, finish your story. You said you woke up in the parking lot.
Oh, yeah. And then, yeah, then the next day we started. I didn't know what to expect. I'd never had like a crew type job, you know, where you were with a bunch of people. That was interesting. But yeah, we just, you know, PTing hard and trying to figure out where to put people. And yeah, dude, I was like the fittest guy except for Newell, of course. You know,
Yeah,
Brett was the guy who's like, you know, running a 7-minute mile and a half. And I just remember looking at him like, that's crazy, you know.
dude, he crushed me in the
Still
mile
like
and a
that.
half in West.
He's still like that. Yeah, I talked to him recently. I talked to him like once a week still, and he, you know, he's doing this like regular run that's 8 miles up to the mountains. I visited him recently, and he showed me this bald spot up on a mountain. He's like, "That's my run. I do up to there," you know. So he's still
Dude,
crazy with it. But yeah, they put me at the head of the dig, which was, man, the first fire we had. I think it was called the Trigo fire. But I remember after that, like in the middle of that, I was thinking, what did I get into? Because this is one of the most intense fires I was on my whole 10 years of fighting. Because It was in southern New Mexico, but we're driving up towards the fire and we're passing burned homes. And it's like
Oh,
every other home is burned. I mean, that fire burned hundreds of homes. So we're driving and it's like this home's standing, this one's smoldering, it's just a chimney or whatever. And we're driving through it and I'm looking out like, oh my gosh. Actually, a little tangent, that actually happened too when I became a structure firefighter here in Virginia Beach. One of my first calls, it might have been my first one, was some guy who had an argument with his wife and he went out in his car and shot himself in the chest to like teach her a lesson, right? So we get there and I'm just out of the academy and we get there and his two teenage sons are standing in the driveway with looks on their faces I'll never forget. We run in there and he's got a look on his face I'll never forget because it's like the look of someone almost dead but not quite. It's not a good look. And we pull him out of the car and his kids are watching and I see that and we get him in the ambulance and he was dead the whole time. I didn't know this, but the paramedic was like, you just don't want to call it right then. So we're driving back to the station after this call and I've got my arm up on the window and his blood is all over my arm. And I'm just thinking like, what did I get into? This is the first call. I think it was the first call. And then it was the same with wildland. Like this first fire was so intense and we get up through the houses that are some burned and some are still there. And we start digging line and he put me at the head of the dig. I didn't know what I was doing, So I start, and we were like, we were supposed to be cutting off these little green fingers and like digging a line. And I'm like following every little finger all the way. And eventually somebody's like, what are we doing? And they look up and you're like, hey, get behind me.
But everyone's been there who's been the head of the dig before. You're like, I don't know. Like, and then when you finally get the bigger picture, like, oh, I'm creating so much more work for everybody by like not cutting them off, by doing these zigzags and digging twice as far.
I had no idea what I was doing. I knew how to, I was digging in the dirt, but I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know anything. So that was good. So I got like 2 or 3 spots back and we, we're on that fire for a couple weeks and it was tough, man. It was a tough one. And yeah, tons of homes burned and yeah, that one too. I was working way too hard. I can remember how I was digging and it was as though I was like being timed for a 100-yard dash on digging all day. So I'm laying at night because, I'm trying to like do a really good job, it was my first day. And I'm laying in my little sleeping bag at night, just wrecked, and I think I did that for a while. And people would tell me like, slow down, man. Like we got to do this for 2 weeks.
Yeah. So you got people behind you saying, you got the people behind you saying, take less. Like, because they're not doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're like, you're going to burn out, but yeah, that season was great, man. I thought that first season, hotshotting, I thought was like the best job on earth. Just traveling all over the country in the back of the buggy. I was reading a lot, reading tons of books and outdoors and working hard. And yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I like that idea or the lifestyle, right? Of that. Like I never got to do hot shots because I got picked up jumping, fortunately, before I got my time in hot shotting. Fortunately, because I was getting towards the end of like my rope with health wise. So like I don't know if I had hot shotting and smoke jumping in me with Crohn's, like it towards the end of my jump career, like things were starting to peter out, my system was really messed up. But like I got to be on Great Northern for, a little while and like half a season. And just getting to ride in the back of the buggy was awesome. Like you said, I brought a stack of bucks and normally I'd bring bucks on a fire and I wouldn't really get to them because we'd be gritting and doing stuff and like or driving, taking turns driving the engine or driving the crew rig if you're trying to throw together, regulars crew, like a hell in a regulars, and not the hell of shots, like hell in a regulars, and something like that. That's just an example. But once I was in the buggy and didn't have any responsibility, I was like, oh, this is awesome, man. I got to thumb through some books. What kind of helped me get my mind right for rookie training too, because we're stopped at Walmart and I like nothing was appealing. There's a lot of romance novels. And I was like, I need something that's gonna like stimulate me a little bit here. And then like No Easy Day pops up and it looks a little bit like too intense. But I was like, well, I guess, and it was this ex-Navy SEAL book about like the Bin Laden raid and But like what I didn't realize I was getting into with that book is that it did at least in my opinion, a really great job of like giving you like a little bit of a playbook or a peek into like surviving hard training. So like the first time I'd ever heard the elephant analogy of like how you eat an elephant came from that book. It's
Yeah.
like, well, if you look at the whole elephant and try to tackle it in one sitting, it's impossible. But if you just like focus on each bite and then like have little spots like like make it to lunch, make it to the next meal, like get some rest and try to like focus on the moment versus like looking at that 1,000-yard finish line and being like,
Yeah.
geez, man, I know I got a ton to go. So that really
Yeah.
helped me kind of like narrow my vision a little bit.
Yeah. That reminds me of I think it was a quote I heard about Navy SEAL training, which is that a lot of people would quit when it wasn't even that hard, but it had been hard, but they would point at the bell. It was like sunset, and they were telling them about the night ahead and how hard it would be. So it wasn't like the moment you were experiencing was that bad, but you were thinking about what it was going to be like. And you know what I mean? And I think it's a lot easier to handle the moment you're in, even no matter how bad it is. But if you start thinking about what the future is going to be, that can break it. You're like, I can't handle the thought, but you can handle the moment.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. Like you said, can't handle the thought because you get like start spiraling out a little bit, like the 24-hour line dig. But if you think about it, just more like well, that's just one step, and all I gotta do is like get my tool in the ground, first step to get the tool in the ground, right? And
Yeah.
then you just keep cruising.
Yeah. Yeah. The 24-hour line dig. That was pretty rough. That
Oh,
was a
I
good.
bet, man.
That
But
was a good.
before we skip ahead, how long were you on
Yeah.
Carson for then?
I was on Carson for 2 years, and Aaron and I got back together in that time. She had become a midwife in El Paso, so we weren't that far apart. She was in southern New Mexico, and after the first season, I stopped. I hadn't talked to her in 2 years. Like we like really we didn't do the we didn't communicate at all. And anyway, I wrote her a letter and just how you doing and stuff. And so I was going to stop by to meet her in El Paso just to see her, and never left.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next season, she had finished her school and she came up there, and we lived in Taos for that summer. And then she got a job as a midwife in Eugene, Oregon.
Oh.
So then I realized I gotta get a job up there. So I got a job on Wolf Creek Hotshots out of Roseburg or somewhere. Yeah, south of Eugene, Roseburg, I think.
Oh.
And so I was on that crew for 2 years, and we lived in Cottage Grove near Eugene, and yeah, and that was when I decided to apply to jump. I didn't apply after 3 years. Hey, hush! The dog's barking at the guests.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, after the fourth year, I applied, and I got picked up at Grangeville. And then the funny thing is, I got picked up right after that, or offered by NCSB. We could have been rookie bros.
Dude, that would have been awesome.
I know, but I told him I already accepted at Grangeville. I think I actually wanted NCSB more, but I felt like I couldn't, go back on it or whatever.
They probably wanted you more, and then like you turned them down. So that's how I got the job. Because I think I was the very last Smokejumper hired in 2013. Like they were just like, well, all the good ones are gone. So like this guy's still around, and I had some college track experience, and they're like, well, he looks like he can do some things. I don't know how I got picked.
Maybe it worked out perfectly then.
Yeah. I think you saved me there.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was for 2013, and let's see. Yeah, we moved out there. We were only there. I was there for a year, and we moved out. So in that winter, Aaron became like real lonely. Like, well, no wonder. Like I'm gone all the time, and then even in the winter, I'm gone doing photography. Thinking this is going to be a career, sort of.
Yeah. I forgot to ask you. Sorry to get. I just thought about it just a second ago. When did the photography come in? Have you been doing it the whole time?
Oh yeah, I started doing photography when I was 16, maybe.
Oh,
maybe younger, 15, 14. I can't remember, but yeah, I was like really seriously into it in high school. I would camp out on the green belt of Austin, which is one of the things that makes that city neat. It's like a really large, wide tract of green, undeveloped land that goes through the city.
cool.
And I used to camp on it. I don't think you're supposed to camp on it. Homeless people do. And I don't think anyone really cares, but I used to camp I used to camp down on the Greenbelt, take photos really early, and then go to school and then drive to high school. So like I'd have to get up real early, and get to school. So I was pretty dedicated to it. And then yeah, I started. Oh, I won like the second prize in a national photography contest in college.
Oh man.
Oh, and I won something in high school too. It was like a best of Texas. I'm trying to remember now, but I mean, I was like winning some awards and thinking, oh, maybe I'm good at this. I don't know. And yeah, and then I did think for a while I was going to do that because I had won. I mean, by the end of, I guess it was 2016 when I kind of quit entering contests and taking photos. Really, I'd won like 20 international awards or something. But what I learned about photography was that nowadays, like National Geographic doesn't hire photographers as like a staff for wildlife. They'll hire, like they want to do an article on cougars, mountain lions. So they'll hire, or they'll contract the photographs from someone that's been photographing mountain lions for 20 years and like get their best photos,
Oh yeah.
And so you're not going to be one of those people. You basically what you do is you lead trips, so people will pay you to just be around you and do photography and learn from you. But either way, I learned it. You just are never home, and I realized I didn't want to do that. So, but yeah, I was into it, man. I did my 10,000 hours.
Yeah, the 10,000 hours. Yeah, right. To master someone. Well, it showed too because, my wife Autumn had just gotten, I think, a pretty nice camera, and I can't remember, like a DSLR. I can't remember what it was. Still have it, and so she was starting to kind of play around with it, and so that was kind of more like the base level I was familiar with. And then Newell was getting into it when I met him, and then he's like, "Well, you got to talk to Tom because like that's the kind of the top there." So like it was cool, like just being around you and Brett to hear you and Brett Newell talk about different settings and different ways to capture things, and going out. You guys were going out super early into the park, and then hearing like your adventures when you got back. It was really cool.
Yeah. Brett's pretty into photography too. I don't know if he does it much anymore. With the kids, he's got the two little boys.
Oh, good for him. Yeah, I haven't talked to him quite a bit. I gotta reach back out because it's been a minute.
Yeah, man, you should. He's doing really good. He's a structure guy, in Renton. And so that's fun for me to ask him about it, being out of it I quit in 2022, so it's been 4 years. But I'll just ask him, how was the night? I got up twice, whatever. Any serious calls? Not really, cardiac arrest, but it was, stuff like that. It's just funny to hear it. Because I remember
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, you lasted way longer than I did. I think I only lasted like 3.5 months, maybe. I don't. It wasn't very long.
Oh, I forgot you did that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because I was kind of like when me and you and Brett were kind of coming back together, like just like talking more like regular basis. We're all going through like our academies or at least our phases of it, And so I was talking to Brett quite a bit back then, and then and my Crohn's, my health was already like in bad shape. That's why I quit jumping, and I was talking to a bunch of friends who were on fire departments like in Billings and stuff, and they're like, well, you can control your diet, and you get more days off, so maybe it would be better. And I was like, oh, that's a good call. I get to stay in fire. And then I thought it was just all diet based. I was like, sure, I'll clean up my diet. So I was eating like nothing and doing these long fasts and stuff and just losing a ton of weight, and it wasn't working. What I found out is it's just a combination of it all, like lack of sleep, diet, and stress.
Dude, it's so unhealthy. It's such an
so unhealthy. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that I did not see that. Wait,
I was gonna say, it turns out it's way worse than wildland.
Yes, it totally is, man. I mean, yeah, the combination of like, I mean, it's such a cliche. The long stretches of boredom punctuated by moments of terror, or something like that. I think there's a few jobs that characterizes, And I mean, but smoke jumping, you could say that where you're in the loft, like sewing, and then usually, I mean, when we were at West, it's not like tones go off. It's like you kind of hear like, hey, there's an order coming in, So it's not like tones go off and you're freaking out and you got to run, put your suit on. It's pretty relaxed, But then you're in the plane, and I mean, you got some stress, and you see the spot, and I mean, there is that stress. But compared to like getting woken up by the alarm at 1 a.m, and you got to drive a ladder truck. I was on an engine for, I did 6 years. I was on an engine for like 3 years, I think, and then a ladder truck. and driving a ladder truck through neighborhoods at like 60 miles an hour at 1 or 2 in the morning. It's like, it's so bad. And then, and some people I think can recover better than others. Like for me, if I got one call at 2 in the morning, my whole night was shot. You know, I'd lay there for an hour and a half. And, yeah, it felt incredibly unhealthy. And then the rest of the time, you know, a lot of time you're sitting around, you're drinking way too much coffee. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm
Um,
with you, dude. Like if I had to call in the middle of the night, like I said, 2, 3 in the morning, that was it, man. Like I'd be wired. And I think it's because of like kind of the wildland in us. Like if you got woke up in wildland in the middle of the night to go, you know, fight fire, you were there until the next night typically. So I think like we're a little more wired that way. And I do the same thing. They have this really cool historic engine. I think it had like a brass. It was made like the engine blocks made out of brass, and like it got like hidden away so that it didn't get confiscated during World War II because they need brass for rounds, you know, for bullets during World War II. So they got hidden away, and that's how it survived. So I just like sit in that thing by myself, like down by the engine bay, you know, in the middle of the night, just like not unable to go to sleep anymore, and then just kind of wait for another call, you know?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then the stuff you see. I mean, one thing I will give that job, it's like it's intense. I mean, you see intense stuff. I think I knew that was coming, but you know, like up until I started that job, I might have seen a couple dead people, you know. And then after a few years, it's like I don't even remember how many, you know, and all manner, in all ages, you know, kids.
Yeah.
Just it's intense, and I feel like honestly I can say I didn't get any kind of PTSD from any of this stuff. I mean, there were some calls that I think most people have a few calls that really stuck with them. You know, like if someone said what was a hard call, your mind goes to. I think a lot of times it's kids, something with kids.
Yeah.
You know? But I definitely don't feel traumatized from it at all. But it is a crazy way to spend, you know, every other day or whatever it was. Our schedule was kind of weird, but it's like you get home at first. I was like, honey, you're not gonna believe this, you know, this car wreck, and it's just two dead people, and we're pulling them out, and after a couple of years, you don't tell them anymore, you know, 'cause I don't want her to hear stuff, and she doesn't want to hear it either, you know. I
Yeah,
mean, she
totally.
would listen to me, but eventually you just realize like I'm bringing her down, and there's no reason to do that. Like I asked Brett, he doesn't talk to, you know, he doesn't tell Tracy anymore about these bad calls and things
Yeah.
like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thanks, man.
The kids went outside, so I can be in here in the air conditioning now.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, it's kind of the same deal, man. I got the kids and the family inside, so I come outside to, you know, get the noise volume down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's the thing, man. It just hangs with you, right? Like even if it's not a bad call or a bad night, like you still bring it home. And like I didn't feel like in the versus the wildland world where I'd come home, and even if it wasn't that great, I still felt like accomplished. Like typically the fire was out when I left, you know, and like came home and like had,
Yeah. And
you know, like
you're
what's
well
that?
rested. And you're
Yeah,
well
yeah,
rested.
yeah, exactly. Go do something on my days off. And that was the thing, the
You woke
schedule.
up in nature, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the schedule, like you said, dude, like I think I was on like one on, two off, one on, four off, but it wasn't really like that, right? Because the clock would start ticking, at least with Great Falls, would reset in the morning when you're still on shift. And that was like your day off. I'm like, I've been up all night, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like
Yeah.
really like one day off, not two, you know?
I know. You know, it's funny when I first started on this. So our schedule was very weird, but it was like we had a 3 week cycle. One of the weeks was hell week. So you work Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Monday, 24
Ooh.
hours. Yeah, it's terrible. And then you had, you know, you worked, I don't know, Monday, Friday, and then the last week you worked one day in the week. But when I first started that job, I felt like I never work. I just felt like I'm off all the time, you know. And by the end of it, I felt like I always work. Like I just something in my mind shifted where at the beginning I felt like my steady state was I was off work, and by the end it was the opposite. And nothing changed as far as the schedule goes. You know, it's funny.
Yeah, it's funny, man. Like, yeah, your brain just kind of adapts to it and just feels more. I think because it is a lot of work, like you said. Like I had a big time respect. Like I always respected first responders and police officers and stuff, but like after doing the shift work, I was like, oh my god, like way more respect for that position because that shift work. I don't care what it is that you're doing. Work at the hospital, you know, like I said, ambulance, fire department, police officer. Shift work is hard, dude.
Yeah, man. And the guys that I knew that I felt like adapted to the job and they didn't feel overworked or like stressed or whatever. They were either like single people, right? So they get off work, they sleep all day or whatever, or it's he was married, but they both had jobs, and when he was off work, he was like with the kids. But the guys like me at the time, you're a single earner, and so you really have to have another job. Those are the guys who were like run ragged, like any day off you
Dude.
have doing some other job, and for me it was oyster farming. After like a year, I think I started the oyster farm, but that grew, and so then I'm doing both, and I was like, something's got to give, and the oyster farm was way more fun, and eventually I was making more money at it anyway, so I had to plan a year ahead. I had to buy enough oyster seed for the next year so that I could sell enough to make it up. So I had to plan a year. I knew I was going to quit for a year, and nobody knew,
Yeah.
And right at the end, I was one of my good buddies at the station 16, which, there's stations that are like cool stations that people want to be at, which is so ironic because everyone gets paid the same, but everyone wants to be at the station where you just get your face punched in all night, Yeah, I always thought it was so, and I will say Brett he thinks that is so funny. Like he's totally over that. He's like, send me to the slow station, so I get some sleep. But so I was at one of these cool stations, station 16 on the ladder, and this guy I worked with was going to get transferred to a slower station that was not as cool. And I knew I was quitting in like a few months. I don't know. It was going to be soon. And so I remember that was the moment where, because I had, but when you have a plan, I'm going to quit, but I don't know I'm going to do it yet, and like give up the benefits and the healthcare. Not that it's great, you still have to pay for it. But that was the moment. I remember driving home and was like, yeah, I'm doing this, because I called my captain and I said, hey, I'll take the transfer from Chris. And he's like, he thought it was because he was a jerk, and he kind of was a jerk, but not like that bad, kind of a lovable jerk. But I was like, I promise, David, it has nothing to do with you. I'm leaving the department soon. So then I called Chris and I said, hey man, do you want to go to station 10? And he said, no, I really don't. I said, well, I'll go. He's like, why? You don't want to go. I was like, I'm going to leave the department, so don't worry about it. So anyway, I took this transfer form, was there for a couple months with the new captain, the whole time thinking like, I'm about to quit. He doesn't even know it. And he was a nice guy. It was a good crew.
Man, well, good on you for keeping it under your hat, because that's hard to do, dude. Like when you're, get a new position or you're ready to, move on a different phase of your life. It's hard to like not start dropping hints. Like when they're like, yeah, man, next week you're gonna do this. You're like, if I'm even here,
I dropped hints without knowing it, because I was about to be eligible for master firefighter, and here it's different everywhere, but here it's like when you're a master firefighter, you can write up front like a captain, but you're not a full captain yet. But when the captain's gone, you're the captain, right? So I was supposed to be doing all this training, and like he would like tell me stuff over the radio on the way back from calls, like, hey, so when you're master, you want to do this and that, and he could tell I was like, yeah, I don't really care.
Just barely paying attention. You're like,
I never said it, yeah. But when I finally quit, I said, hey man, can we go talk in the office? And everybody hates hearing that. He's like, yeah, sure. We go in, and I remember looking back and thinking, just for fun, I should have said, I fucking quit, and then just get him freaked out and be like, I'm kidding, man. I mean, I do quit, but it's not that,
Yeah,
I didn't have it in me. So I was like, man, I'm leaving the department. And he was like, I wondered if you just really didn't want to be a master, like be a captain. And I was like, nah, it wasn't that. I was planning on leaving the whole time, so I couldn't pay attention. But
yeah, no, totally. Well, yeah, you just don't want to waste the space in your brain, or like get to learn the processes that you're going to be checking out, right?
Yeah. You just mentally check out, before you.
Yeah, and I kind of had that a little bit too before I totally threw in the towel, because like my health was just so bad. Like I was, having to like run to the bathroom. Like we get a call and I'd run to take a shit and then like run back out so they didn't leave me. And it was like, oh man, like so. I mean, I was kind of checked out for a little while before I totally threw in the towel.
Yeah. How are you doing these days? Physically?
Yeah, much better. Still, I don't think I could like go be primary fire at any capacity, really. Like maybe just a touch. I still got the skill set, I guess, to be like, you know, in charge of a small incident or something. But like, I don't. Also, the stress. Like, I'm not too worried about the stress of that, but like the stress of like being a trainee on stuff again. I think that would compound a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there like medications that are being developed that are better than they used to be or anything? Because I have a
Yeah,
friend, a good
totally.
friend up has Crohn's, and man, when he was in high school, like it really didn't affect him. And then after we got out of high school, it really hit him hard. I mean, he was in the hospital, and like we had no idea, we had no idea about all this. And so anyway, I know how like debilitating it can be, but the funny thing is both of you guys, and this always strikes me with you, is like you're both such healthy guys in a way, like, you know what I mean? No one would ever know that you're dealing with this thing. I mean, look at you, you know?
Well, it's just the
But
lighting, like I said, man. It keeps me young looking. Just got to
uh,
stare directly into the sun a little bit.
yeah, but no, Jonathan too. Like he was a super healthy, fit guy. Um, but yeah, he's dealing with this thing forever, and I know it can be real bad. But
Yeah, and I think it's just forcing you to be honest, like with your diet and stuff too. Like I can't slip on stuff. Like I haven't been able to eat fast food in like 20 years, probably or more. Like even just like French fry will like crush me, and then getting more sleep. A lot like I think I probably drink more water than the average person because like that really helps me. Like I feel a lot better when I'm well hydrated, and then you focus on more things like sleep really helps me recover. So I try to, I'm not getting sleep as like with young kiddos and stuff, like you don't get a ton of sleep. So like probably average like 5 hours, but it's like a hard 5 hours typically, unless, one of my kiddos is having a rough night. Um,
how
so
young's
yeah,
your
I
young?
think, two and,
Oh yeah, man.
yeah.
You're in the thick of it. Wow, yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
My young, it'll get better. My youngest is 6, and she'll come still sleep with us in the bed sometimes, but she sleeps. I mean, she'll get in the bed, and I'll wake up when she gets in the bed. But
Yeah.
sleep, and so yeah, we sleep good now. It'll come. You'll see.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. And I mean, it's starting to a little bit better, but like, dude, it's, luckily, I think being older dads, like I think like our parents' generation were having kids like right out of high school. A lot of them, like
Mm.
my mom was super young, and the um the fact that I wait till like my mid 30s to like 40, like before I had kids, I think I appreciate the moments more like that. Like the kids coming in to cuddle, it's like, man, this is going fast already, man. It's gonna be gone, and
Yeah.
then they don't care anymore. That they're busy, right? Like the cuddles. I don't know. It's weird after a while, I guess. Like.
No, I know, man. I think about this sometimes because I think there's such positives to both. Like one of the negatives to like Aaron and I were. I was 32 maybe when Joe was born, our first one. But it's like 10 years at least older than 30, 40 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But one of the downsides is like your parents are so much older when your kids are teenagers, and you know what I mean. And in their 20s. Like my parents, did I tell you my parents moved next door here on the shore?
No,
Yeah, so they moved from
dude,
Austin
that's
a year ago. And
awesome.
yeah, and they built a house, and I mean they were really like right around the corner where our vineyard is, one of the two, and they're right there. And so my kids run over and see them almost every day. I had to call yesterday and say, "Hey, is this too much?" Because Samuel is like, "Hey, it's 1 o'clock. I'm going over to play Monopoly with Grandpa." Um, but
Oh man.
they're in great health. But then my wife's parents both have Parkinson's,
Oh man.
and so they can barely. They still like the kids can go over there, but it's got to be for a short period of time. But 10 years ago they were doing great. So but
Yeah.
I do know what you mean. Like just the idea of me being 22 and having a baby, it's like that would have been. I mean, maybe we would have risen to the challenge and it would have helped us grow up faster, but I don't know, man. Plus the person you're with at that age, if you get married at 22, you change a lot. So yeah, I think there's
Yeah.
kind of plus and minuses either way.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, like and like you're saying, individually, right? It's on the individual. And I think me and you are very similar. So I think we, like because I agree with everything you said about the 22-year-old self, like myself at 22. It's like I feel like I would have done the same thing, like you said, risen the challenge and been the best dad I could be. But I don't think I'd be as good a dad because now all whatever stuff I had planned, I'm done with. I did it. like now. So I'm just focused on the kids, and that's all I can think about is like spend time with them. Like I'm not worried about smoke jumping. I'm not worried about doing some crazy adventure because I did the adventures, right? Tried to
Yeah.
sail the Bahamas, didn't work out. Like I got stuff like that I tried. Like
Yeah.
I don't need the excitement anymore, man. Like my cup is more full spending time with them. Playing little silly games versus like trying to you know build money to try to get a house and all the things you're trying to put together, when your kids are little and, like, if you're in your early 20s,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's a lot. Well, I won't, I might do a part two because I got more questions for you and I don't want to keep you all night, my friend. Because what is it, almost 8:30 there?
It is. Yeah. 8:15.
8:15. Jeez, man. Um, I guess I'll just kind of finish off with just like the smoke jumping aspect. We're in West together and you left smoke jumping in 17, 18?
16.
16. Oh,
16.
really?
Yeah.
Oh man. One of those times where I think you were on your way out and you didn't even tell me. Because I think oh no. Maybe I saw you in 15 at Missoula. I can't remember if it was 15 or 16. And I hadn't seen you in a while. And like I think you were boosting Missoula, but then you're on your way to somewhere else. And there was a little bit of time for like loss. Well, I think me and you were just kind of hanging out in Loadmaster. Um just catching up and there was kind of like a standstill, of like production. Like I think all of our cargo was up to, because that's what I was doing. I think I was just like packing some food boxes and stuff and I think you came over to help me like strap the last one up and then we were sitting down just like catching up. And did you know at that point that you're gonna be gone?
I don't know. I don't know. Probably. You know what did it for me was well. So once we had Joe in 2015, so we had a baby at home, and we had her in April, April 10th, and then I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks later, I left to go out west to jump for the 2015 season, right? And it felt terrible. It didn't feel right, And I should have known then and like quit that year, but I guess I just didn't get it together. Plus, dude, I just gotten hired like 2 years before. I was still enjoying myself, And I
Yeah.
thought I worked like 10 years to get there, to get jumping. I mean, not, I had, like 7 years. I put in a lot of work to get there, and I didn't want to just quit right away. But what did it was Erin flew out to see me because she was having a hard time with the baby by herself. And we landed in West. So this must have been the next year. Yeah, 2014 maybe. No, 15. Yeah. And and we landed, and I got out, and we got all our gear on. And Erin's on the runway with Joe, and Joe's like 4 months old or something.
Yeah.
I walk over to her and I get up close, and as soon as she kind of like focuses, she just starts sobbing because she didn't have any idea who I was,
Yeah, there's no recognition, right?
All that time, I spent a lot of time with her up close, and when she was a little baby, but she had no clue who I was. Just some dude with like a really weird suit on. And Erin looked at me and I was like, okay, I get it. I'll start
Yeah.
so that's when I knew. I don't know. I guess I didn't tell anyone. I can't really remember. I remember very well when I was over here and I was going to quit. I was keeping it hush hush, but I don't know about smoke jumping. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think I was pretty vocal when I was gonna quit smoke jumping. Cottrell talked me into sticking around for a little while because my system was pretty racked, dude. And like I ended up doing a detail in 16, and then I did another unofficial detail in 17 because I was trying to get on with the fire department. And then I ended up, getting on the fire department in 18, and it was like I wasn't in Prescott yet, but I was in Arizona in Buckeye. I think. Yeah, Buckeye, Arizona, which is just outside of Phoenix. And then I ended up getting a travel position in Prescott. So we went up to Prescott. But when we went down to Buckeye, like everything like had finally ramped down from the season. And I was like, man, I'm done. Like I'm gonna go do something else. Like I had no idea. I'm just gonna throw the towel completely on fire. And
Yeah.
and then and then I ended up getting in structure fire and talking to a few buddies in that world and like kind of gave me some new excitement, I guess, about fire. But
It's
and
fun.
that Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say what's funny about that. So when I rookied at the structure department, they hammer you all day with like, this is the best job in the world, that kind of stuff. And you kind of have to like drink the Kool-Aid after a while to get through it. And it took me a couple years before I was like, I'm not really happy doing this. For Aaron had to remind me, like, this was always supposed to be a bridge for you. I'd forgotten that. It was always supposed to be a bridge job until I could find some way to make a living, more or less as a farmer on the Eastern Shore. We always wanted to make a living on the land somehow, and it's hard to do nowadays with big ag. You can't grow an acre of tomatoes and make a living, or whatever a crop. But we were sort of able to find these niches. Like oyster farming is still kind of a niche thing. There's not like a big ag version of it.
Thank God.
I know, and then the vineyard too. I mean, there are massive vineyards that are all mechanized, but if you sell out of like a localized tasting room, you can still kind of do it on a small scale. But I don't know why I brought that up, but it took me, I had forgotten that it was supposed to be a bridge job. Aaron had to remind me, like, you weren't supposed to be happy doing this. You're supposed to use it as a bridge to something else.
Totally, man. And I think that's where I was trying to go career and everything. So I was a little bit the opposite, but like, I think having that mindset too is like, bridging to something else, and then maybe it ends up being forever. Cause I think that's a lot of wildland firefighters that, you do it because it's seasonal, right? You get your winters off and you go live in Thailand or wherever else and you get to travel.
Yeah.
And then I think it just ends up being, all of a sudden, next a blink happens and it's 20 years gone by and you're like, well, I guess I'm a career guy now,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was happy in wildland. But like in structure, I really wasn't. It's funny to me, man, those two jobs have almost nothing in common except the word fire. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
One of them, you spend all day outdoors, you work hard most of the day, and you sleep well at night, and you're not really around people. I mean, and then the other is like you sleep like crap, you sit down most of the day. You sleep terribly. You're involved with people all the time. They're just totally opposite jobs, except there's the word fire.
Yeah.
So I don't
totally.
see them related. And I think most people don't know that structure guys barely ever fight fire. That's not really what you do. You do medical.
Exactly.
You do medical calls.
Yeah, because I didn't really know going in either. I mean, I kind of had a heads up from a bunch of my good buddies. One of my really good friends in particular in Billings, and but I think Billings is big enough where you go on more calls, so I kind of expect to be a little bit more, like that. And then I go to Great Falls, like you said, like I don't think I responded to a fire the whole time.
Yeah, man. I mean, that was hard for me, like to train for something and do it once a year. That's tough. In wildland, you train to go on fires. You go on fires like it'd be like if you trained as a jumper and you jumped like twice in your career,
Yeah.
And I mean, we would go on fire calls, but they're mostly like someone left a pot on the stove and it's just smoking the place up or whatever.
That's
I will
that's
say,
oh
I will say, I don't
yeah, I
want
was
to
gonna say
denigrate
that's
them
most of them good. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
man, go ahead.
because I mean, you really do help people, And the calls that a lot of guys griped about were the ones where you're thinking. I mean, I was thinking like, well, we're actually really helping this person, like a lift assist. Like someone's on the floor, they've been on the floor 24 hours and they don't have any family and stuff. I mean, if you want to be like charging into a burning building, that's annoying to do this, but you are really helping people. I actually do kind of miss that.
No, same, dude. I felt like I was definitely that's what I really enjoyed from like just from the start is like you're part of that community. Like you're one of the what it feels like one of the like main blocks of the community, like
Yeah.
and one of the calls I went on was very minor. Like there wasn't much going on. Like like lift assist, there's not much going on. You're just going to help somebody, like sometimes on the stairs. And that stair chair didn't seem like it really worked that well. But
Those things are crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I was at the bottom end of that thing trying to like keep from getting run over. And didn't seem like it was working at all. Or maybe the guy who was running it wasn't using the brakes. I don't know. But Billy said, like, I actually feel like I was really helping out. And there, a couple of elderly people couldn't breathe. So they, call us up and we go to help them out. It's just kind of being more comforting. And then, one of this pretty young gal, pretty sure she's younger than I was, in her late teens, early 20s. And she was just wandering by the park and the river in Great Falls. And she called 911 because she took a handful of pills and was ready to end it, and then decided, maybe I do want to be alive. Like I, probably need more of the quiet walk than anything, right? Like she probably just needed to take a quick walk. It's fresh air. So she did that, but unfortunately with a belly full of pills. So we come rolling in, and the guys I was with were kind of impatient at this point, like they've been around a lot. So like Not saying it's right, but I understand, right? Like they were like, oh, okay, like why do we even get called for this kind of deal? Like, there's an ambulance, they'll take care of you. Where I was like I was there with her, and like I was like, do you need what do you need? How can I help you? Let's sit down and just talk a little bit. Like we're here, you're fine. You're still breathing, right? You still feel okay. Like,
Yeah.
we got some stuff we can do for you. Like it's life's not that bad. I'm trying to be more comforting than anything. And I felt really good about like a call like that.
Yeah, and I'm sure she remembered that. I can remember a couple calls where somebody was on drugs, like psychedelic drugs, and they thought they were dying for some reason. And I remember one in particular where, I don't want to hear about this from the guys, so I like knelt down close to her. This woman, I don't know what she did, but it's some psychedelic, and she thought she was paralyzed, like she's in a chair. And I got down close to her, and I was like, "Hey, listen, I know how you feel right now. I promise you're not paralyzed. Like I've been there. It's in your mind, Like, but by telling her, I've been there, because everyone was so annoyed. Everybody was so annoyed. But I've been that person. I got the ambulance called on me one time when I was real young because I did mushrooms, and I thought I was, I don't know, I thought I was dying. I had a bad trip basically, and ended up in an ambulance. I can remember the guy just like so disgusted. And so it was interesting to be on the other side and have a little empathy.
Yeah, man, and that's so important, man, because you live so much life, and that dude, that's one of the big reasons why I wanted to have you on the podcast too, man. Because like I always enjoyed our conversations, the insight you have on life, because you've done so much of it, man. You and Aaron, like I remember you telling me about, and correct me if I'm wrong on the story, but I think you were telling me that Aaron was in Kauai for a little bit, like went on the Nepali coast and camped out back there for a little while, like barefoot hiked in, right?
Oh yeah, man, she's a hippie. Yeah,
Yeah.
she spent I don't know how long, I don't know, a month or something in Kauai, in the Kalalau Valley, I think it's called,
Oh,
on Kauai or Hawaii. Anyway, um, yeah, she's done a lot of cool stuff. She was on a pearl farm in the South Pacific, and um, yeah, man, we've done some cool stuff. I really hope that we've got some neat adventures in the future. At this point, our kids, like, they're not interested in hearing about any stories or stuff, but they do want to travel. Like we're talking about this winter, trying to go somewhere, but we've talked about that for a couple winters in a row. It's just been tough.
yeah.
But
Well, you got something that a lot of things, right, that you can't just totally step away from. It's not like you can hand over the keys to somebody like with the vineyard and the oysters and everything else you got going on, and a mercantile, right?
yeah, so we bought this. So what we were thinking was, because we grow like 500,000 oysters a year, basically, and then and we have a couple thousand vines now. And so I sell the oysters to restaurants, and then the wine. So the wine was the thing that really pushed us over the edge on this, because you can't make any money selling wine wholesale. Because in the United States, it costs like $8 a bottle to make a bottle of wine, and you can sell it wholesale for like $12 or something. Because then they got to mark.
Oh,
But yeah, we bought this cool building down on the southern end of the shore. It's a big building, man. It's like 6,000 square feet, but it used to be a farmer's market, and so we're trying to fix it up into a wine and oyster tasting room. It's got,
very
what we learned? We learned that we're the only vineyard slash oyster farm in the world, or like the
well.
only family farm that does vineyard or grapes and wine and oysters. Isn't that cool?
That's
Totally
so
random.
cool,
I had
man.
no idea. Yeah, but we're looking it up,
Yeah.
and I looked it up, and I couldn't find anyone else in the world that did that. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, every spare minute I have, I'm down there. Every spare dollar we have goes into it. It's been a lot, but hopefully it'll be a
Dude,
good thing.
what and that's why I want to bring that up too, dude, because I kind of want to hear a little bit of background to it, and also just that, like you just kind of you stumble in it in a way, but it feels like you guys both are always like drawn to the next adventure, right? Like whatever that is, whatever life just takes you on, you just like are open, right? Like you feel like you both have open hearts where it's like, well, yeah, let's try that. Oh yeah, like we do this. Oh, and then and then you just lead down this path like we were talking earlier about the dots. And dude, it's inspiring, man. I love hearing about it. Like that's incredible.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. I asked Aaron not long ago, like, how did the grape thing happen again? Like, I really couldn't remember because we didn't plan it. And she told me she remembers stuff better than me, but we planted a few vines. We were thinking we make wine for ourselves, and that sounded like a fun adventure. But I loved the process so much, planting the rows and tending the vines, that I kept putting more rows in. And she said I turned around and there was like 500 vines in, you know. And
Yeah.
so each year I've been adding, and yeah, we just started harvesting. We harvested the first grapes a few days ago. We've got a few more Thursday morning we're gonna do. I mean, we've got a bunch of varietals, you know, so they come off at different times.
Okay.
But yeah, man, we're making some good wine. The first few years is some rough stuff, but there was a
Yeah.
little bit of good stuff in there, but most of it was the big mistake was it was too acidic. I picked it too early, so the acid was too high. So all the sugar, you know, gets fermented away, and then all you taste is the acid. And it was like, you know, just very tart. It was good to mix with like bubbly water, but that was about it.
Oh yeah, that making like a seltzer.
Yeah. But yeah,
But
man,
enough,
if you wanted to
enough.
do it again, let me know.
Yeah, let's do this again because especially like when you get closer to like the grand opening and stuff, man, and like like it'd be cool to get it again. Come on here again if you want, and we can expand a little more on some of the stuff, but also like pitch the Merc for folks, like that, a spot to travel to,
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, Tom. Well,
Hey,
thanks for the time, dude. I appreciate having you on, dude, and we'll talk to you soon, my bro.
all right, it's great to see you, man.
Great seeing you, my friend. Yeah, give me 1 second. Stop recording.